Sound can function as a behavioral indicator, revealing how individuals process emotion, attention, and internal states. And when someone consistently chooses instrumental saxophone music, this pattern often reflects a distinct combination of emotional sensitivity, cognitive flexibility, and controlled engagement with their environment. The saxophone produces a tone that closely resembles the human voice in its warmth and expressiveness, yet it remains structured within melodic boundaries. This creates a balance between spontaneity and control that directly influences how the brain interprets the sound. Listeners who are drawn to saxophone instrumentals tend to show a higher sensitivity to subtle tonal shifts, indicating an increased ability to detect fine emotional variations not only in music, but also in social interaction. From a psychological standpoint, this aligns with traits related to emotional awareness, where individuals are capable of recognizing and processing nuanced affective signals without requiring explicit cues. At the same time, saxophone music is often associated with genres that incorporate improvisation, such as jazz and ambient fusion, where patterns evolve dynamically rather than remaining fixed. This engages the brain's predictive processing system by introducing variation within an expected framework. Individuals who prefer this type of stimulation often demonstrate cognitive flexibility, meaning they can adapt to changing patterns while maintaining coherence in thought and behavior. They are comfortable navigating between structure and unpredictability without experiencing cognitive overload. From an emotional regulation perspective, saxophone instrumentals tend to support a state of steady immersion where attention remains focused and emotions are engaged at a moderate intensity. This differs from high-energy music that elevates arousal or highly structured compositions that demand analytical focus. Instead, saxophone music facilitates a balanced mental state that is particularly effective for creative tasks, reflective thinking, and sustained concentration. Neurological responses to this type of music involve activation in regions associated with auditory imagery, memory integration, and emotional interpretation, especially when the melody carries expressive phrasing. Repeated exposure can strengthen associative links where certain tones become connected to specific moods or cognitive states. Over time, this builds a personalized internal system where music acts as a trigger for both emotional recall and mental alignment. The absence of lyrics further shifts processing toward interpretation rather than direct comprehension, allowing listeners to construct meaning based on sound dynamics, phrasing, and timing. This encourages active engagement where the brain participates in shaping the experience instead of passively receiving information. From a social perspective, individuals who prefer saxophone instrumentals are often perceived as composed, perceptive, and attentive to detail. This perception is influenced by the cultural positioning of the instrument, which is frequently linked to sophistication and expressive control. However, these associations remain probabilistic and are shaped by personal and environmental factors. Consistent patterns still emerge as listeners who repeatedly choose saxophone instrumentals often display a balanced interaction between emotion and cognition where sensitivity is supported by control and adaptability is grounded in awareness. This suggests that their musical preference reflects a mode of processing that values nuance, flow, and subtle expression, making saxophone music not only a source of auditory experience, but also a meaningful indicator of how individuals engage with complexity, emotion, and social context over time. This extended pattern of engagement becomes more visible when saxophone music is placed within everyday cognitive and emotional routines. Individuals who repeatedly return to this type of sound often use it as a stabilizing layer that supports both focus and emotional continuity without creating excessive stimulation. Unlike highly rhythmic or aggressive genres that demand immediate attention shifts, saxophone instrumentals tend to maintain a steady auditory presence that allows the brain to operate in a more fluid and uninterrupted manner. This is particularly relevant in activities that require sustained creative output, such as writing, editing, or conceptual thinking, where abrupt changes in stimulus can disrupt cognitive flow. The smooth phrasing and gradual transitions found in saxophone melodies help preserve attentional stability while still providing enough variation to prevent monotony. From a neurological perspective, This type of auditory input supports a balanced interaction between the default mode network and task-positive networks in the brain, meaning that individuals can remain focused on a task while still allowing space for internal reflection and idea generation. This dual activation is often associated with creative cognition, where structured thinking and spontaneous insight occur simultaneously. In addition, the expressive quality of the saxophone introduces a layer of emotional resonance that does not overwhelm cognitive processing, but instead complements it, allowing listeners to remain connected to their emotional state without losing functional control. This balance can enhance decision-making processes where both rational evaluation and emotional awareness are required. Over time, consistent exposure to this type of music may reinforce a preference for environments that mirror these qualities. Environments that are neither overly rigid nor chaotic, but instead offer a sense of controlled flexibility and adaptive flow. This can influence how individuals approach problem-solving, interpersonal communication, and even long-term planning, as they tend to favor gradual progression over abrupt change. Another important factor is the role of temporal perception, as saxophone music often unfolds in a way that subtly alters the listener's sense of time, creating a perception of continuity rather than fragmentation. This can reduce the subjective pressure of time constraints and allow for deeper immersion in ongoing tasks, which is particularly beneficial in modern contexts where constant interruption is common. Individuals who align with this pattern may demonstrate higher tolerance for extended engagement and a reduced need for constant external validation or stimulation. From a social standpoint, this mode of interaction often translates into communication styles that prioritize listening, interpretation, and measured response rather than immediate reaction. They may be more attentive to tone, context, and underlying meaning in conversations, which aligns with the auditory sensitivity developed through their musical preference. However, as with all behavioral indicators, these patterns remain influenced by broader contextual variables including cultural exposure, personal experience, and situational demands. Even so, the consistency of these tendencies suggests that saxophone instrumental music functions as both a reinforcing mechanism and an expressive signal of a cognitive emotional profile that values balance, continuity, and nuanced engagement, making it a relevant factor in understanding how individuals maintain internal coherence while navigating complex and dynamic environments.